Loud music only, not just by volume, but by truth.
What's going on, everyone? You're watching Showcase on Loud Music Only. I'm your host, A.T Bianco, and today I am joined by the jack of all trades, a very talented musician named Flwr Chyld. Thank you for being here with us today. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me.
Dude, of course, anytime. So I discovered your music about a month and a half ago. So I'm new to the Flwr Chyld bandwagon. But I listened to your music, and one thing that just struck me was how it made me feel. Um,
Right.
it for lack of a better term, that shit just made me feel good, and it's just how it was. And as an artist and a producer for that matter, that's definitely got to feel good. And I hear you're from Atlanta, Georgia, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what's it like being from Atlanta, and what's the creative scene like for you, just making music there?
Um, Honestly, man, uh, the creative scene here just overall is really dope. Obviously, like we're kind of like the epicenter for like hip hop and trap music and whatnot. So it's definitely interesting. It's interesting to see how like different people maneuver like through the space, like myself, like people who don't make hip hop or trap music and stuff like that. At first, when I first started making music, it was kind of difficult for me. But I feel like, once I decided to kind of like take control of my own destiny and say, okay, I'm not necessarily a singer songwriter, you know what I'm saying? Like I write songs, but I'm a producer at heart. So I'm gonna take control of everything and put out music under my name and whatnot. And basically, um, in doing that, I started reaching out to people outside of Atlanta. Uh, and I've been working remotely since I've been putting out music. So um, since then till now, nothing has like really changed for me. Like, working remotely has been honestly the best thing that I could have done for my career. You know, Atlanta is obviously a great place. Creative scene is really dope, like I said, but as far as like the market for my music, it just made more sense to kind of branch out, so but I work with a few different people within the creative scene here, more so on the photography side, videography side, but not so much like musicians. Like I have like my in-house people that I go to, like my friends and whatnot. Um, but yeah, any other like, you know, things I need like with cover art or art direction, I kind of keep it home. But yeah, with the musicians I work with, I work remotely and just reach out to different people in different places. So that's kind of like my experience, like maneuvering through the creative scene and whatnot. But overall, it's a dope place.
It's very fascinating to hear, and one thing I want to touch on is just your whole like brand identity and your marketing. And you mentioned cover art, and the music obviously has to be great for people to
Right.
want to listen to it. But
Right.
there's, I see in the wall behind you, there's Igor,
Yeah.
that album right
Yeah.
behind you. There, and we'll get to that a little later, because I see some comparisons in your production style with what Tyler the Creator especially did on that album.
Right.
But a lot of times cover art kind of reels people in, and interests them to at least click on a project or a song. Talk about your process, in, say, for example, Lucky Me, the song you just dropped a few weeks ago. What was your creative process with that cover art?
Man, I'm not gonna lie. Like this was first off, this is one of like my favorite covers. It's probably my favorite cover up to this point, next to my last EP and the single that I dropped, My Mind, in November. Um, Honestly, man, what I've been telling people, who've been asking me recently is that, I've been sitting on the idea to do something like shirtless or to show more skin for a while, man. I've been over the last year, you know, with the pandemic, I've had time to sit with myself and get more confident with my body and just who I am and just honestly like just embracing all parts of myself. So I had started that vision board for a cover art, some sort of like really edgy, like, you know, extension of myself that people had never seen before. You know what I'm saying? And the music had, you know, you've heard everything up until Lucky Me, but then when you hear Lucky Me, it's super upbeat. I've never released a song like at that tempo, um, to be quite honest, especially as a single. You know, I've done a bunch of house edits and stuff like that where
Hmm.
I pick up the tempo, you know, but obviously I don't release that music because they're just edits. But you know, the direction of sound I've been going in, man, it's been like super edgy. I feel like me and my creative team and the people around me, um, we've kind of been tapped into like the 70s aesthetic for a while. And I've just been trying to figure out ways over the last year, how can I incorporate, you know, my favorite decade of music into my own music, you know,
Hmm.
really figuring out what that sound looks like for me in 2020 and how to make it feel, but also make it feel nostalgic. And that was like really what I wanted to do with the cover art. You know what I'm saying? Like some of the greatest like album covers are from the 70s and early 80s, in my opinion. And you can even go back to like the late 60s with a lot of the jazz covers and whatnot. So I wanted to really kind of capture that all together. And I felt like I was really able to execute that. You know, like that was all creatively styled and directed by me. So like I was really happy with like how that, you know, turned out and how receptive people were to it. Yeah, like obviously like the music is kind of like a no-brainer for me. I know that's going to be taken care of, but
Right.
like you said, cover art is super important. And for Lucky Me, it was just really me kind of like uh taking a leap of faith and taking a risk with, you know, a different, really just showing people like, hey, I'm evolving as an artist. And yeah, we're still gonna make it tasteful. It's gonna make sense. It's never gonna feel forced. It's always gonna be who I am. It's just about how I express that and how I give that to the rest of the world. So that's pretty much how that came together. Just me brainstorming over the last year and finally like taking the creative risk that I always wanted to.
Yeah, that song in particular, I'm listening to it, it's very, it's like funkadelic soul, like it's just very, that's what I don't like to put labels on things, but there's certain words that pop into my head
Right,
when I
right,
hear particular songs. And I think you really executed that with the cover art. It's, it has a little psychedelic trippy vibe to it, but at the same time it's like, it's edgy, it's different for you. And the meaning of the song, and the title "Lucky Me," is that
right.
a kind of twist on Lucky Me, like look who I am, I'm lucky to you know have myself or have these skills? Is it like a self-love, self-appreciation song?
Absolutely not. Um, the only reason I'm saying that is because a lot of the time, like when I work with different artists and I send out tracks, um, the name of the actual beat will be different from what like the artist goes to talk about. So,
Right.
um, lucky me, there was one morning I wanted to put some Baileys like in my coffee or something. I was trying to find something to start the morning, but there was like some Douce, and
Okay, that's how you started your day.
bro, I poured it in some Thai tea that I had because I was just feeling like, I mean, I wanted to, I really wanted to try something new that was, I guess, close to Bailey's, even though it wasn't like even remotely close to Bailey's. But basically, the name of that beat was called Douce and Chai. And when I sent
Okay.
it to Sebastian, you know, I'm gonna be honest, uh, when he sent it as Lucky Me, um, you know, I think a lot of people like have been listening to the music and like they're caught up in the energy and whatnot, and that's what it's supposed to do. You're supposed to feel good, you know what I'm saying? But like as you listen to it more, and more, and you start to really kind of like dissect the lyrics, and it's really just like Sebastian, when he wrote it, he was talking about a love interest, and the song is very sexual, and it's just like, hey, today must be my lucky day because she finally let.
That's interesting to hear because my first impression of that song, and for a lot of songs, isn't always what it actually the meaning actually is. So I wanted to get
Right,
that
exactly.
that firsthand information from you. So back to the topic of 70s, uh, maybe even 60s, 70s type jazz. I hear a lot of Stevie Wonder influences in your music. I'm a huge Stevie Wonder fan.
Right.
My dad, I grew up my dad playing his music, and my dad likes a lot of different like type of like funk soul jazz type music, and I hear a lot of that influence in your music. And an artist like him, how has he impacted and influenced your creative process as a musician?
Bro.
I know
uh,
it's a loaded question, but I need
I,
to hear.
Stevie is like one of my biggest influences as of the last 3 years. Uh, I've really taken a deeper dive into 70s music, but me and my homies like Alex, who plays guitar on pretty much all my music, you know, I think being around him and us just like him being that person that I can really talk to uh about music in depth with, we like tend to like listen to Stevie. And like one thing that Alex said that has always stuck with me is like, Stevie reinvented like the 2-5-1 chord progression. And as I've been listening, like especially over the last 2 years, I can really hear that. Like when you hear like kind of straight ahead jazz, like with the 2-5-1 chord progressions, the voicing and the shapes of the chord, it's pretty much it's straightforward. But the way Stevie like did, and where he would take you uh with that particular chord progression, it made me feel something different than the stuff I listened to that's from the 60s or even like the mid and 50s and whatnot. So he's had a huge influence on my sound, man. Like my first two projects, like so you have Iridescent Love. uh I gave people a taste of that, like the 2-5-1 chord progression, and on Fly Me Away with Mia Gladstone. That's how I started the project. But there weren't any more bridges on the rest of the EP. Then you have uh the Float EP. That was me getting more comfortable with like learning how me getting more comfortable with knowing how to incorporate, you know, his influences into my music. So you hear it like there's like 3 or 4 bridges on like the intro to my last EP. And then I tried to incorporate that throughout the project, but it wasn't as prevalent as the stuff I'm working on now. So like
Mm,
when you hear Lucky Me, when you hear the bridge the first time around, you know, the way I try to approach things with like color in mind. So, you know, the song feels really warm, groovy at the beginning and whatnot. But then when you get the bridge, I just wanted to like take people through this like really cool trance in a way. In my mind, I'm thinking like blue and purple, right?
okay.
Um, it's really dark and cool, and you're like, okay, like, damn, this is like super soulful, like, you know. But then like the way I end the bridge, I bring it around the second time, and I end on like an altered 2-5-1 chord, and so it feels lighter at the end. And Stevie does that in a lot of his music, you know. So uh, yeah, man, he has had a huge influence on like the music that I just put out with, even with My Mind, the record the single I put out with Amaria in November. I incorporated like bridges. Really, that's the word I was looking for. I've been using a lot of bridges and the stuff I've been creating over the last 9 months or so. So you'll hear like that on Elu J's album whenever that's supposed to drop. You'll hear it on more of the stuff to come from me, definitely on my debut album, which is gonna come out at some point next year. But and you heard the introduction to that new phase that I'm entering with Lucky Me. So yeah, man, he's him along with a slew of other musicians have had a, a huge impact on like my sound just as a whole.
Right. And it sounds like not only his particular sound, like Stevie's sound has had an impact on you, but like the structure of his songs, like you explained
Yeah,
the
yeah.
251 and a lot of bridges that you've been using. So that's very interesting to hear. Before I'm gonna move on to like another artist that I hear a lot of influences on you. I want you to explain the concept of the 251 thing for whoever's watching this.
Um, Basically, to put it plainly, uh, it's just you. It's just basically scale degrees
Mm.
in a sense, and you taking like a particular a scale and you starting like on the minor chord, the two of it, and then yeah, you just work your way through it. Like I wish I could explain it in terms. Hopefully, there's no like super nerdy people watching this. I did go to school for music. I went, but the theory that I took was like uh, more classical based. It was yeah, it was classically based classically based music theory. A lot of stuff I learned was from me playing in jazz band as an elective, and pretty much I probably say 90% of the stuff like I've learned it was through people who were in the jazz studies program at Georgia State, which is where I went to school. So yeah, that's about as good as I can get with like the breakdown of the chord progression. Like I've taken lessons and stuff like that. And but yeah, that's pretty much like how it works. I wish I could go into more depth, but I know what the shape is like. I know how to like alter the chord. I know my different chord types as well. So yeah, man.
So you were talking about school.
Right.
So you said Georgia State.
hmm
Did you study jazz there? Like what was your place of study?
I played trombone. I auditioned on that to get into the School of Music because you have to have a focus instrument that you play on while you're there at Georgia State, and you have to go through like this thing called jury and stuff like that to make sure that you stay in the School of Music. It's just a piece that you prepare for your professor, and they like judge you on it and stuff like that. So, but outside of that, like the jazz professor at Georgia State, he needed like an extra like trombone jazz band. He needed somebody to fill like third trombone, and I was there and I did it for 7 semesters, I believe.
Wow.
So that's where I learned like pretty much everything that I know about jazz. Like I grew up on neo soul and different forms of jazz. Um, I didn't like necessarily like know like the inner workings of it and whatnot, or how to like play certain chord progressions, or how it made sense musically.
And it sounds like you're a clear student of your profession. You've put in a lot of time towards this, and you were talking music theory, and that could really make sense of what you hear in your own music and what you hear in other people's music too. So I'm sure that applies in a lot of senses. Now, when was that moment, whether you were a young boy or a teenager or whatever, when was that moment where you were like, I want to make my own music. I want to chase this music thing. Was it more in school? Was it before that? Explain that journey.
It was when I started playing instruments. So like my dad is a band director. He's been a band director for I think 20 years now. So being around him at a very young age, just being around all this different instruments in different ensembles. So like my first introduction to I feel like music on that level was marching band, like being around him during band camp and all that stuff, and then like concert season and whatnot. So that was kind of like what planted this. Like, okay, I think music is really cool, and I definitely want to end up playing instruments. I started playing instruments, trombone, when I was 11. By the time I was 12, man, I knew was like I wanted to be a music producer. That's my biggest thing. Like I want to be a music producer. I told my dad that all the time, and I actually started making beats when I was 13, 14.
Really? So when you started making beats, what software did you use? I'm curious.
The same software I use now, which is FL Studio.
Okay, you're live and die by FL. I like that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, because some people. I have a friend that produces more on the hip hop level, and he like lives and dies by FL Studio. Some people use like Logic and then Ableton. There's obviously a mixture of those. So in any sort of, my next question is, in any sort of creative field, it feels great to visualize something in your head, whether it's a song concept or cover art even. um how does it feel for you when you think of a catchy melody in your head, or maybe a set of lyrics even for a particular artist you collaborate with? How does it feel for you bringing all that to life? How would you define that feeling?
Man, it's like seed in a garden and kind of like watching it grow. Um, that's and really manifest into something special. You know what I'm saying? Like you have an idea, that's really the seed, and then like once you actually put it into the air and how it gets executed and whatnot, to your liking or to the other person's liking, to really when it gets to a place that like you as a producer are happy with, or a writer, and that vocalist like executes your idea the way that you wanted to, that's like the best feeling in the world, man. It's just like, like a lot of people, they see just kind of like the finished product, but the process is like also very, very rewarding. Like I feel like I'm more in love with the process than, you know, the actual end result with a lot of things. So, when I like tell somebody like, hey, like I have this song written or I have a melody for this, and I give it to them and they're able to execute it the way I had in mind, that, yeah, it's just a great feeling overall.
So a lot of your music is collaboration based. Most of it is.
Right.
When you are coming up with those melodies, or maybe you're playing around on a certain instrument, do you know right away what kind of like vocalists you could hear on that track? How does that collaboration process work for you?
So while I'm making a beat, I'm always trying to like approach it with the mindset of I'm trying to make something that I've never made before. It's more so when I'm in like project mode. I'm always trying to make something I've never made before. Uh, it's and that's a completely different mindset from when someone comes to me just for production or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, man, just having that in mind uh, allows for me to kind of just start from scratch, work on something I've never worked on before, and then as I'm creating it, I'm thinking of different textures vocally that would work, and then I kind of keep things in the back of my mind with like certain types of vocalists, and I'm just like, okay, do I hear male or female? And it's like, okay, what kind of like um artist do I want on this? Do I want one name like Would Love to You with James Tillman?
It's a
Uh,
beautiful song. Beautiful song.
I appreciate it. Um, with him, that was I felt like that was a risk I took in the sense that you know I had never had a vocalist like him on like my type of production. So it may not have been a risk for James on his end, because he's been in it longer, and he knows what he needs to do on certain types of production. But the way, you know, I just had like because he has like a very like silky type,
It's
vocal texture.
yeah, it's like I listened to the song for the first time, and I just felt like I was like floating. Like that's all
That,
I could define it as, between the production and his voice. It's just
yeah,
great.
man. Uh, all the stuff I had heard from James up until that point, um, you know, the production was kind of soft, you know. Um, when I sent it to him, I was just like, damn, okay, we're gonna see what happens if he responds to this, because I felt like, you know, I hadn't heard him on anything like that before, as far as like the style of production, maybe chords, but like the drums, I hadn't heard him on anything. So in my mind, I'm also thinking about like while creating this music, how can I create like the dopest, like unexpected like contrast between the two. Sometimes you kind of gotta like go for what you actually need. Uh like Lucky Me, I knew I needed someone who could like really like slide on that and like deliver a great like vocal performance, like just top to bottom. And Sebastian was like the perfect person for that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the time, like when I think about Sebastian and his vocals, I'm just like, if Prince and D'Angelo were to like have a baby, like it would be Sebastian Mike. And you know, it had that really funky feel, and I'm just like, okay, like if Prince were here today, it would work. Or if I had the opportunity to get in the studio with like D'Angelo or something, like it would work. But Sebastian was like perfect for it because he was like that perfect, like that hybrid vocalist that I needed that could, you know, he has the range from like, you know, getting really low, uh and yeah, getting in the lower register like with his vocals, but also get really high with the falsetto. You know, it just made sense for that one.
For Love to You, obviously it worked because I mean, I know as an artist you're not always like driven by like the streaming numbers or whatever, but you know, you you go on your Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, and that's the, you know, the song that pops up. So
Right.
when you saw the success of that song, what was that like process? Like how long did it take to really, I guess, push that song and for it to really catch on with listeners?
Man, I'm gonna be quite honest with you. So when we first dropped it in April of 2019, I was, you know, I had never had a song stream like as well as it did, but I kind of had like bigger expectations for it because at that point, you know, James had been making music longer than I did. And shout out to him, by the way. Like he's like one of my closest friends. And I feel like he's done a lot for my career just by like being willing to hop on that song and to see where it started. Like I think I had 40,000 streams like between April and June on that song, right? And then it catches on to the anti-pop playlist on Spotify. And then we start to see like it like, you know, like really the numbers for it really, really grow. Uh, but I think, to be honest, that song didn't land on a bunch of editorial playlists on Spotify. I think Anti-Pop was like the only one and maybe Fresh Finds. But even then, they didn't really last super long. I think Love to You lasted on Anti-Pop maybe a few months, which is great for a
Right,
song.
right.
For it to, you know, get into people's like personalized playlists. Personalized playlists is what got that song to where it is now, man. So April of 2019 till almost April again in 2 years, or actually less than 2 years, we hit a million streams on Spotify on that song. So that was definitely a win because it's just like I had an opportunity to see like true organic listeners, you know, people really be tapped into like what you're doing. And yeah, man, like at the end of the day, I always tell people like the music is gonna speak for itself. Like we have a budget for that song to push it. Like we have a marketing budget or like run ads for that at all. Like it
So
was
you cut out there for a sec. You said you did have a budget or didn't have a budget?
well, we didn't have a budget at all. I honestly, man, I haven't had a budget for like any of the music I put out. You know, it's just like 100% indie. Like now, obviously, like we're allocating funds to certain marketing things that we do now
Right, right.
because we have money. But before, man, Love to You, yeah, man, this it was just all organic streams, and just, you know, we got an opportunity to see like, okay, like you can really reach people just by making honest music. And that's really what it is at the end of the day. You know, like I know people like to, you know, bring money into it and whatnot. But real music, you know, real music to me is honest music. Honest music will always like find its way through and make it to people and get to a million streams. So, you know, like I was grateful to be able to like, you know, see that grow into what it did, and it's still doing well, man. It's a lot of people feel like uh, you know, I've seen people say like, oh, it's a perfect love song, you know, like I feel like an enormous sense of like gratitude um towards like people who like really made that song what it was. Like the fans got it to a million streams. That wasn't much marketing put into it. It was just, you know, just good music, great engineering um, of the song, and yeah, man.
And that's a very valuable thing, I think, for any artist in any genre to hear, is because the if you look at the music industry right now, it's very oversaturated with a lot of the same types of sounding artists and songs. But
Right.
at the same time, the idea of, oh, you have to pay for Facebook ads and Instagram ads and this and that, and I think it overwhelms a lot of people, and it kind of shoots you down before you even get started. So with
Right.
you saying that that song just spoke volumes with pretty much, just the indie organic way of pushing that song, I think that's a very valuable thing for a lot of artists to hear in particular. So I heard you say that particular song, or any of your songs for that matter, um, they really thrive with excellent engineering. For you as a producer, do you tap into the engineering side as well, or do you outsource and work with someone with that too?
So I always outsource for like the final like product that I want to get.
Hmm.
So anytime I get stems in from an artist, like I send them to my engineer, but they can tell you like I am probably the most hands-on when it comes to that because I'm right there every step of the way, every mix, being
Right.
super nitpicky. But it's a reason for that, man, because y'all get that final product and you know people end up loving it,
Right.
and I feel like a great mix will definitely make it easier on the listener. It'll make it easier for to to reach new heights, maybe with like sync licensing, any type of music licensing. You got to make sure that your mix is on point. Every great album that we love has had great, phenomenal engineering.
Hmm.
And I'm just grateful for AJ who mixed AJ ruined my record, who mixed Love to You, and Benadryl, who's my new engineer that I work with really closely with now, who's engineered pretty much all my stuff last year up until this point, and we're working on this album as well. So, um, yeah, man, that's kind of like how I feel about that. Like, you know, I don't I don't really know all the technicalities, but I know enough terms to tell someone what I want. Or if I don't know, I will question the hell out of them until like I I fully understand what's happening in the mix. So when they send me something back, I can tell them like, oh, it's too much compression on the vocals. There's too much going on with this. It's too much going on with that. Can we try this type of delay with this type of plugin? You know, all that type of
Hmm.
stuff. So yeah, man, I'm definitely right there every step of the way. Lucky Me took I think 7 or 8 mixes, which isn't like too bad. There's been songs that have taken like 10 plus mixes.
Wow.
I'm the type of person like however many mixes it takes until it gets to the point I need to get it to, you know, to where I feel like okay, I'm satisfied and I want to put this out.
So in terms of the quality of your sound between Iridescent Love and Flow
Mhm.
within those two projects, how do you think the quality of your sound has matured between those two projects and even now?
Um, I would say life experiences, man. I dropped Iridescent Love right after I graduated college. I was still like I had to do a summer semester to like really finish out, but I had still kind of graduated. So I was in a more free flowing space at that moment. Like I was intentional. I just wanted to like put out good music, you know. That was the goal with that one. But with Flow, like I had actually like went through some things, man, to a point where, you know, like my anxiety and depression was bad. I was going through like a post the tip grad life stuff, but it's intensified when you're not doing what you want to do because, you know, like you're working a part-time job and you don't even want to make music be like it's like you want to make music but you can't because you're mentally not there, you know, and you want to make something good. uh a lot of the time I felt like I was in my room, man. It's just like, damn, as bad as I want to get up out of bed and like actually like work on music, I can't. Like I physically cannot get out of bed because like my mind is like in shackles. Like I can't, I just can't. So Flow is very intentional, man. Like, you know, I feel like that was a project like that was, you know, I actually listened to it again maybe about a week ago because I hadn't heard it in a while, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize what I did. Like I, you know, in the moment, um, I was going through a lot, and it's crazy because each collaboration, it seemed like everyone else was going through something, man. Like, hence the title Flow, you know.
Right.
And I think the overall concept, you know, and me getting through that mental funk was just kind of like just appreciating like what you have, um, working with what you have, and working through like the ebbs and flow of life, you know. And I'm also a Pisces too, man. So that had a lot to do with like the title and, you know, the symbolism of like of Pisces and stuff, fish and whatnot. So, and when you think about a fish, it's just like
It's just floating.
it's floating, it's swimming through water. You know, it's not so. But when you take a step back and like kind of look at everything from a holistic standpoint, it's like, you know, you gotta move through the punch. You gotta roll with the punches and kind of learn how to deal with certain things that are thrown your way and do your best to work through them, whether it's just, you know, personal things that you're going through, like um situations with intimate relationships, or any external thing, internal or external thing, man. You gotta, you know, uh find a way to work through those things. So that was a very, very, very intentional project. In the moment it was, and after I released it, it felt like a release, you know, just overall. You know, when I went back to listen to it, I was like, damn, like, you know, I guess I get why people have reached out to me like, yo, this helped me with my depression. It's helped me with whatever. Yeah, man, that's kind of like been the difference between like me being in school, just trying to make good music versus like trying to create a very intentional body of work, all while making good music. And I feel like, to answer the other part of your question, just as I'm getting better, just as a human being, the music is going to follow right after, because you can't you can't make, in my mind, I can't make good music if I'm not in the best mental. Let me take that back. Whatever, I feel like whatever you're going through will reflect in your music. But if you're make for me making the effort to just grow in different ways as a human being, make myself be more comfortable with myself and make others around comfortable, the music will follow right after. And really making a concerted effort to get better as a musician as well. So get better as a human being and better as a musician, the music will come, and everything will sound great.
You know, I think it's very admirable that you're so open about your struggles with depression and anxiety. You know, I know from myself, I struggle with those same things, depression and anxiety. You know, some people deal with it seasonally, and what I can relate with you as, I'm a very creative person, not necessarily me, you know, making music, but whether it's I'm making an episode or writing an episode, and or even interviewing people. You know, a lot of times I get in these, I call them like mental funks,
Right, right.
um to where I know what I should be doing, I have these ideas, but it's almost as like a frustration with yourself of like, well, shit, I don't want to get out of bed today. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So I could definitely relate to that. And even with talking to people, whether it's collaborating with people and kind of sometimes putting on a face of and a mask of like, okay, like maybe I don't feel my best today, but I have to go and do this. When you're talking about mental health and in conjunction with you making music, how does making music help your mental health, for you personally?
Um, Man, it's like it's your happy place, you know. Whatever you're going through, like I know for me, just my entire life, music has been just allowed me to heal in different ways. You know, like when I hear like uh looking for another pure love with Stevie Wonder, it just makes me feel good. It doesn't matter what I'm going through in my life. That's my favorite Stevie song, by the way. Um,
Looking
and
for a pure love.
looking for another pure love.
Another pure love. What album is that off of? Because I've heard that before.
That's off Talking Book.
Talking Book.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna interject and say my favorite Stevie song is As.
As that's another beautiful one, man.
Oh, that puts me in another realm. Like it just like makes me happy. Like bad day, I'm turning on As and I'm just listening to it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, man. So it kind of it kind of puts you in a space like because escapism can be good and bad. You know, it just depends on how you. It depends on what you're escaping from. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And how you deal with that. Like, because some people like they have like their form of escapism in unhealthy ways. Um, I'm an advocate for people like uh having like healthy coping mechanisms to deal with things. Music like has been like scientifically proven to like be like something that can help heal, put them in a better mental space or whatever. And I think uh for me, man, it's done that like, but even on a deeper level because I am a musician. You know what I'm saying? So just having that feeling when chills are going down through your body because you hear a certain chord that you didn't know was gonna go there, but you like, damn, that felt so good, you know, and you know nobody or nothing can make you feel the way that music or that particular song that you love feel. Um, and yeah, man, so that's how it's helped uh with me escaping like certain things that I'm going through, whether it's good or bad. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, like creating, I love it. It's a great form of escapism for me. I feel like I'm just in an entirely different zone when I'm creating or when I'm listening to music. It really doesn't matter, uh, you know, especially when you're intentionally listening to music. That's a whole nother ball game.
Right, right. And no, I totally understand that. That's one of the reasons why I love music so much as well, is because it's helped me through a lot of particularly rough times in my life. And one of the reasons why I'm so interested in talking to artists and doing something like this is because I'm constantly fascinated with how artists bring that to life. Like I think it's the wildest thing that like I can listen to your music and my mood is changed. You
Right,
know,
right.
and as a producer, as an artist for you, that's got to be so rewarding. K-Tronada. What does K-Tronada mean to you?
Cajun is everything, man. Also shout out to him for winning that Grammy because I think did he win two? I think he won two for two different categories. Um,
I think I knew he won one. I knew he won one, which is
that's
the
a win.
craziest thing.
That's a win. I feel like you know, for someone who I looked up to when I first started, and I still look up to, I hold him in like high regard. I would love to meet him one day and just have a conversation and tell him thank you for kind of like setting the mold and just like you know showing that showing that producers can get the same amount of love as an artist or be looked at as an artist, that's a great feeling, man. And the fact that, you know, he was able to win a Grammy for it speaks volumes. You know, it put me in a space when I saw it. It was kind of like surreal. Like, damn, like, yo, this person like who I looked up to. You know, with me taking control of my own destiny and realizing like, okay, like you're a producer. Like you've always been in the shadows. You're supposed to be in the shadows in a lot of people's eyes. You're not supposed to be respected. You're not supposed to get like, you know, you're just not supposed to get the proper respect that you deserve. You know, so him dropping 99.99% like my freshman year, that kind of like set the tone for me as far as like where I wanted to take my career, as far as like what it looks like realistically. um and me kind of like following that path or just like that foundation um has allowed me to really kind of be in the position that I'm in now, with releasing music under my name. You know, you don't see me singing in my videos. You know, I'm there in the cut, you know what I'm saying? But just know like it's still my record, you know, and or me and whoever else's record that is, but it's my record because like it's on my project or whatever. Um but yeah, man, he's everything. He's phenomenal. Shout out to K Tronada, man. Like he's literally everything.
Well, I wanted to ask you that because other than Stevie, I hear a lot of K Tronada in the style of your music.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it has influenced my music as well.
and I was while I was preparing for this interview, I got to do my research. So I had heard from something or someone that you're a big K Tronada guy, so I had to ask you about his impact. So over the past, I guess, I don't know how long you've been working with them, but we connected through a mutual friend, my friend Julio,
Right,
who works with Lina.
right.
Um, kind of explain how that came to life, what you're working on with them, how they're helping you, and that relationship.
So basically it's still very early, but they're great. Ross and Julio are great. From everything that they've shown me so far, man. As you get deeper into it, you know, it's just been me and my manager for like the last 4 years, but there are certain things that, you know, have to be taken off like our plate with digital marketing. And we understand that that's a lane that we have to like make sure that we tap into. I mean, that's just a part of like being a musician and establishing your brand and trying to take it to new heights and and just take it to where you want it. Um, so we pretty much linked up through my manager. I forgot how we like met them and stuff like that, but you know, uh, you have to build out your team and add new pieces, add new valuable pieces to help you really stay on the trajectory that you want to stay on and take your career to new heights. But yeah, man, they're great.
So when I hear you mentioned your manager,
Mm-hmm.
um, when was there a point in your music career where you were like, hey, I need a manager, that kind of thing? How did that come to life?
Honestly, man, that me and my manager, I really started off from a consulting standpoint and him just giving me advice on things. But I didn't come to him. He came to me. I think it was because he saw like potential based off my work ethic and how hard I worked, you know, and him really like taking just that, seeing like me being a hard worker and then helping develop me as a producer artist, and helping me establish my brand and helping me get things together on my end on the logistical side of things. He was the one that told me like, hey, maybe you should like uh, try challenging yourself with making more upbeat production. And that's when I created like an extension of myself, like with the edits and okay, like how can you incorporate like this sound into this part of your sound, and really just helping me truly like challenge myself so that I'm making sure that I'm constantly evolving as an artist and not staying stagnant. So that's pretty much how that started, man. That's how it's been, you know. My day-to-day guy. We 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 talk about we check in often, you know, and he's always been there, you know, making sure that I'm good mentally, financially, all of that stuff, man. Just making sure that we're keeping the ship afloat and really taking it to a place that we want to take it.
So within that process and seeing it all come to life, you know, you've kind of formed a bit of a team around yourself, and you're, you know, in this moment right now working on you said your first album.
Mhm.
How's that process been like? I know you're as an artist, and anybody, you know, I'm not asking you to give out any secrets, but what's that process been like, and what can Flwr Chyld fans expect on your first official album?
Man, honestly, don't have any expectations. That's what I've been telling
I love
everybody.
that answer. I love that answer.
Yeah, because Lucky Me was kind of like, oh, like, you know, you weren't expecting it. If you go through my Instagram feed, like you see like really cozy vibes with the art direction, and then like, you know, I ease you into it with like this behind the scenes photo with me and Alex, and then I drop like the back cover, then the front cover, and then you hear the music. It's kind of like, okay, like he's taking us to a different place. I don't know where he's taking us. I just hope that everyone is just, you know, here to witness the journey and understand that I just want to show different show give you all an extension of who I am through the music, and I hope it just makes you feel good at the end of the day.
So within that, do you have any potential shows lined up, plans for shows? Do you like performing?
Yeah, I love performing. There haven't really been a ton of shows lined up. I just got a really cool opportunity. I don't want to speak on it because we're supposed to be finalizing it tonight, but I'm supposed to be doing this festival uh second week of May. Um
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Like it's the end to a drought because stuff has been down. I didn't do any shows in 2020. The last show that I was supposed to do, the first show in 2020 that I was supposed to do, I was gonna open for Charlotte Dos Santos, um, but that ended up getting canceled. It was like, I think the date was March 29th, man, and like weeks COVID, and I feel like everyone has just kind of been dealing with this like awkward like pandemic tra- like trauma.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. That's
Yeah, man. So as a musician, you know, that's extra income. That was extra income for a lot of people. Really excited about 2020 because I had just started making money from shows in 2019. So
mhm.
it was like, oh, like I'm getting even cooler opportunities to open up for like well-established artists. You know, so yeah, man. I'm grateful that the drought is over, and that I'm about to be doing this festival, man, and it's I'm really excited about it, man. It's been a while that yeah, I'm just excited.
That's great to hear your excitement, and I'm excited to see what festival it is, and hopefully be able to tune into that.
Yeah.
So before we close this interview out, I want to ask you an important question. Um, you know, from where you are right now, and if you can visualize your goals for the next 5 years, where do you see Flwr Chyld in 5 years?
Mm. My manager can probably answer that question, but only because like we've had talks. You know, I told him like, oh, like I want to be here in 3 years. He's like, bro, I'm thinking about where you're gonna be in 10 years. He always has me at this like Pharrell type level, you know, and I think I'm just a very modest person. You know, people close to me, you know, really see my potential. Sometimes I don't give myself enough credit and take a step back to realize like, okay, you're doing great things. But honestly, man, I think my end goal in 5 years for sure, I want to be like a household name, you know, on like a real music loving level, you know, the same way people like hold Kaytranada in high regard, or just these different producer artists. I want to be like one of the pioneers in it, you know, because there aren't very many of us, you know, at a really high level, you know, just because it's a lot of people aren't doing it. So I want to be a pioneer for that and to really like push other producers to kind of like uh, chase this lane as well because everybody to eat. You know, I'm an advocate for that. And yeah, man, I just I see that's seeing myself in 5 years, a household name, with with the likes of. I know it's gonna take a while to get to like Timberlands and Pharrells of the world, you know, Neptunes and stuff like that, but it's definitely doable. It's possible. It's just about staying consistent and staying confident within your craft that you'll be able to get there. But you know, I'm just taking it a day at a time and trusting myself and trusting the people around me that I'm gonna get to where I want to be in 5 years, in 10 years, 15, 20 years from now.
That's awesome. And I see that trajectory happening for you based off of me talking to you, based off of listening to your music and seeing how hands on you are with your work ethic. And I just want to say I'm very impressed with your music, and this conversation today has been very enjoyable for me because I was so fascinated in who the man was behind all those awesome songs. So
Yeah,
I really appreciate you taking the time out today and coming on here. And I just want to tell everyone at home, this is Flwr Chyld. Go check out his music if you haven't, because you're really missing out. He's on all streaming services. So you have absolutely no excuse. Thank you for coming on today, Flwr Chyld. And this is Showcase on Loud Music Only. And thanks for watching.
thank you for having me, man.